Hey out there, this is July 25th, 2015, and I'm in downtown Santa Cruz, California, trying to get some interviews from people, get their opinion on the county supervisors voting not to do business with the big five banks. And I've approached a few people so far, but they either don't have time or they want to talk in front of the camera or they're ignorant about the whole deal. The fact that Santa Cruz County, as far as I know, is the first county in the nation to do this, to make this move. And it's going to, of course, cause a lot of animosity in the big banking industry. And I'm trying to get people's view on this tactic that the county is using. And the reason that the county supervisors did this, they cited all the criminal behavior and the fact that the fines that these big banks are getting for their criminal behavior amount to a slap on the wrist. You know, they take $1 billion and give $100 back as a fine. So we'll see what happens here. Hey out there, this is August 1st, 2015 in Northern California. It's about 10 till 9 in the morning. And a few things on my mind. First, I wanted to explain the first part of the video. And I was in Santa Cruz recently. This past, last week, in fact, 1 week ago today, I was on downtown Santa Cruz on what they call the Pacific Avenue Mall. And I was trying to get some interviews from people that lived in Santa Cruz and get their opinion on the Santa Cruz County supervisors voting to stop doing business with these big five banks. I believe it's only five. And what they thought of this, the fact that this is an unprecedented, to my knowledge, this is an unprecedented maneuver by any county in not only California, but the whole state. And, most of the people were walking around with their noses in the air and not looking like they're interested in talking on camera. And a few people I asked if they lived in California or if they lived in Santa Cruz were ignorant about the fact that the county stopped doing business with these big 5 banks. So I was unsuccessful in getting a single interview from people, and I don't know what it is. I thought I was being aggressive enough, but you know what it does? It gives you a whole new respect for the job, the work that a reporter does, because it's really tough. I can get into very inspiring conversations with people without a camera, but those same people will clam up in front of a camera. And that's a real problem because, of all the things that, you can put on video, it is, other people's opinions. And, you want to watch their face, you want to see their body language, and everything else. So it's a beautiful thing if you can get an interview on tape. But I tell you what, it's got to be one of the hardest jobs out there, believe it or not. And I never was a good salesman, but I'll tell you what, getting a report on your own is really tough. I think that's why so often reporters go out with a couple of people, because it's not just the fact that you got a cameraman holding the camera for you and all you have to do is control the microphone, but that just having that moral support of having somebody else there with you could help to prompt you to to get in people's faces and get these interviews. But enough said on that. And then after that, I showed some images of these. Where I am is called Lookout Point. It's an area located between Chico and Paradise, California. And it's a place where a lot of people have committed suicide, especially previously to them putting a roadblock so that it wasn't so easy for people to just drive their cars right over the cliff. But I imagine some people have just jumped over the cliff probably and successfully killed themselves. It's quite a distance down and rocky at that. So, but all those locks, although I don't know, I believe they signify some of the loved ones that have come by and put these locks on in memory of their loved one that maybe taken their own lives. So anyhow, that is a real life horror that as human beings we all have to face, that there is people amongst us that are suicidal. And we never know, who that person is that we meet. We may be the last person somebody meets, before they go out and take their own lives. So it's very critical to be, walking in the Spirit of truth, the Spirit of God, just in the spirit of goodness and benevolence and, all good things toward all men. And I think of all the things that God would have us embrace as human beings, it is the Spirit of truth, which is the Spirit of love, which is the Spirit of God. This is the Holy Spirit, the comforter, the encourager, and we are to let that Spirit work through us, and we are to be a vehicle for that Spirit. And this is how we can be on God's side. This is how we are God's friend. And this is how we are disciples of Christ even. This is just a modern day. When you follow the teachings of Jesus, you become, in essence, you're a follower of Christ. So simply by prescribing to the golden rule and in believing that as we do to others, that too shall be done to us. And, that's the motivation, that's the reasoning, that's the logic behind why you want to treat others exactly as you want to be treated and be ruthlessly honest with yourself. This is where a lot of people fail. So many people seem to walk around with such a degree of arrogance, this idea that, I've made the person I am, and by my choices, I've made good choices and I'm proud and, and all this stuff. But, forgetting the fact that you are a created being, you are owned. You are another's property. And you don't know a damn thing about creating a human being. You didn't create your brain. You didn't create your imagination, your conscience. You didn't create your senses. You don't know a damn thing about that. All you know how to do is procreate. That's what your parents did and how you came to be. That's an instinct God put in us, to procreate. He made it like an irresistible urge to mate. I think, as most people will attest to, that it's a very powerful force that causes a man and a woman to, to do their thing, to mate, and to have this expression of love in this physical form, which results often in a new human life, like a clone, a copy. This is God's miraculous way of doing business, and we're part of that. But other than that, we don't know from where we came. We don't know to where we're going. And it's so important to have the right values, to really say, what things am I treasuring up in my life? How do I define prosperity? Is it the way the secular world defines prosperity, which has everything to do with money? What would I trade from my imagination? Everybody's heard it asked, what would a man give in exchange for his soul? Or what would it profit a man to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul, like Jesus asked? But how many people think, what would I pay for my imagination? If somebody offered me $1 billion, but I had to forego my imagination, what would I give? What would that be worth? Would it be worth it to give that up? And then you'd be an unthinking automaton. You wouldn't. That's what thought is. To imagine is to think, to consider, to ruminate, commiserate within your own mind, in your spirit and your soul and your imagination. This very valuable thing, this imagination. This is such a beautiful thing. This is how God draws us to Him, because He knows we need that imagination to understand His will for us. What are our treasures? What things do we care about above all else? How do we define prosperity? How do we define realistic? Okay, what is realism? To me, an idealist is the most realistic person out there, because I believe any person that claims to be a believer in a higher power, in God, in Allah, in whatever you want to call this force for good, this cosmic essence of creation, this all-powerful, most high God, whatever term you want to use, this miraculous, mysterious force of power and design. So obviously everything is designed. Our eyeball is more sophisticated than the most advanced state-of-the-art camera. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that this stuff would assemble itself, any more than it makes any sense that a laptop would eventually, over time, assemble itself. Do you understand? So anybody that says they believe in God has to believe that God is far more perfect than we, that we are all sinners. It doesn't make us all wicked, but we are indeed all sinners. And as a result, this is why death came into the world. This started back in the origin. If you read the beginning of the Bible, and you'll understand the fall of man, the original sin, and then the curse, the subsequent curse that befell the earth. Why it is written that to this day all creation groans under the weight of sin, because of what human beings did in whatever it was, this forbidden fruit, this fallen state, whatever caused that. And I believe it was inbreeding with other beings, fallen beings, lesser beings. This hurt God greatly, and at one point He wished He didn't even create us. So you've got to understand, this whole curse is upon the earth and all creation. Likely, I believe, this is what brought in this whole predator-prey mentality, this evil, this of devouring one another. And we see that as human beings. We may not devour the flesh of another, but we devour their essence. We rob them of their safety and their sense of security, their freedom, their prosperity. Okay, this is what we do. And it's very predatory, and it's very evil. And the way that the evil people, the wicked people ruling over us, they got it. This is an instinct too. We can go either way. It is like a devil on each shoulder, an angel and a devil. And we can choose one or the other day by day. But we've got to understand the implications and the ramifications for choosing foolishly, and understand that this is serious stuff. This is matters of the soul. This is where we go to from